This is Matthew McConaughey.
Natalie Portman.
James Patterson.
Michael Ian Black.
And you are listening to
Five Questions
with Dan Schawbel.
Marc, welcome to Five Questions.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks for having me.
Well, you're a busy guy now, and you've had quite a career. What have you learned about yourself and business from starting your own fashion companies, running for office, and helping build the family empire?
I think for a long time I doubted myself. I think, like we all do, we have a lot of insecurities. And I think over time I've learned that I'm a lot smarter than I give myself credit for. And I think we're all kind of go around with these insecurities. And I think you have to embrace them and just grow and know that you don't know everything, but the journey's been great. And I think that's probably I am happy that I'm not, people think like I'm in sales and I ran for office but I think we're all kind of insecure sometimes. So
I really like that response because I think we're all not only a work in progress, but things constantly change. So even if you think you're the smartest person in the world, then the business world or your environment or culture or anything changes, then you got to adapt. And then you're going to learn something new. Like I bet a lot of people now back, 3-5 years ago, didn't think they had to use or understand AI. And now this is the new skill set that people need to adopt.
Absolutely.
And it changes everything, right? Like how
Yes.
people do content and from your perspective and just how people are productive and take care of business. So I do like that answer too. And everyone, like, I don't know that I could host a podcast or run a business or do anything else until I kind of put myself in, with the sharks and kind of figure it out. So I think that's a really valuable piece of advice. And what have been some of the challenges of running so many different brands and businesses with your family, especially? And is there a common way you've been able to navigate them?
Yeah, I think what I've learned over my life is that those times that you kind of get overwhelmed or you think you don't see the forest for the trees, you got to stop. And I hate to use cliches, but I try to understand that this is a period in my life that's really exciting. And I'm going to look back on it as I look back on my first job in New York City or my college experience, that we want to stop and enjoy the ride. And I think at my age, that's what I've learned. And that's what I try to tell my girls. And I think my wife's really good at that this is a journey that you have to enjoy the experience because it's not going to last forever. Life is going to change. And so that's been one of the things that gets hard sometimes with all the moving pieces, keeping that mindset of, holy, this is really cool what's happening and all these opportunities. And I try to get the girls to understand that. And they listen and they've done really well. And it's not going to last forever. Life is going to change.
Well, and you're in such a unique position too. Like a lot of parents don't spend that much time with their children, right? They're maybe at work for long hours, and your career in a decent chunk of it is kind of managing and working with the kids and doing, kind of the Hulu show and all this together, which adds this interesting dynamic from a positive perspective where, you're spending so much time with your family, which is the most important thing in life, you could argue. But at the same time, if this family frictions or something bad happens, that can potentially affect the family as well.
Yeah, I mean, it was a perfect storm because I was in the apparel industry. I'm still involved in branding, obviously, and I had a showroom in New York City. If I would have taken another career path, that I would have had where I was tied down to Connecticut and New York, we wouldn't have been able to come out here. And I certainly wasn't letting Charlie at the time at 15 years of age come across country by herself. And, but I've been cautious. We were definitely involved in the business, but I've brought a great team around us, people who are a lot smarter than I am as it relates to entertainment. But yeah, that's been an exciting part of it, but I don't think we would have done it any other way. Just obviously for the reason that there was no way I was going to let my 15-year-old daughter come to Hollywood by herself. So
I don't blame you. And you've done so many different things. One of the latest ventures, and it's hard to keep up, is the D'Amelio brands, Why did you decide to launch this venture now? And what do you hope to accomplish with it?
I think one of the things that we deal with is it seems to be that this Hollywood endorsement environment just starts to become a hamster wheel, and you're always chasing the next deal, and you don't have a lot of say and in some of the partnerships. Once you get involved with a company, they have a creative team, they have management, they have stockholders, they have investors. So although we love the partnerships we have, we wanted to do things that we start and see all the way through from inception till launch and market. And we also think that the girls have a really unique perspective for their generation and understand their generation, and being able to implement that perspective into a brand or a product category has been great for us.
I've been an influencer in the space for a very long time, since 2006. I started a blog back then. And so I was witnessing, brands not even knowing how to deal with me, right? Like, what do we do with you? And we're so used to working with maybe celebrities or other types of kind of influencers and brands in order to, generate awareness and achieve different metrics. And now it seems a little bit more commonplace, right? And so like that relationship is fascinating because it has evolved, right? And those contracts look a little bit different now, since like those firms are maybe a little bit more educated than they were when this first started, based on my experience. And I'm sure you've seen this too. And you and your family have had so many brand partnerships. I don't even know if you could share the number, but I'm sure it's a lot. Can you describe what makes one of these successful and why some of them don't work out for either the influencer or the companies? Because a lot of people dream of being influencers now, or aspire to be. For some, maybe they hate their job and then they see being an influencer as a way out or a new path that could be more enjoyable. So how do they make that work for everyone, both sides?
Yeah, there's no guarantees. The fact that Charlie has 150 million followers, if the messaging isn't right and the product isn't right and it doesn't seem authentic and the company's not authentic and not willing to listen, sometimes we kind of know, and we push back. And Charlie, one of the things I'm the most proud of both Charlie and Dixie is that in these meetings, they push back because their name is on it and they want it to be successful. And they're not always successful for various reasons. You'll get in to a situation and the first thing they'll say is, hey, we want Charlie to do a TikTok dance in holding our product. And it's like, dude, that's the furthest thing. Like, there's more success when Charlie's or Dixie are just in a video and someone will comment, hey, whose sweatshirt is that? Or where, what are you drinking or whatever? And then they just tag it and that'll get hundreds of thousands of likes. And I think it's taken time for the company, for corporate America to understand you can't just push it in someone's face and be like, here's my cup of whatever. And it's got to be a little bit more subtle and it's got to be authentic. They got to why Dunkin' Donuts has been so authentic for Charlie is we used to go on Dunkin' Donuts runs where I would get coffee and she would get a donut when she was a kid. And when she and Dixie started in high school, they would do those runs. So Charlie just had the cup in her hand. So she was drinking Dunkin' before we ever had a Dunkin' Donuts deal. And everyone knows it's authentic to her. So that's what I think the companies have to understand. And they try to sometimes put square pegs in round holes, and it just doesn't work.
Yeah. And because the third leg of the equation, right, you have the influencer, right, like a Charlie, and then you have the brand that's trying to like leverage the influencer to communicate a certain message, maybe for purchasing, decisions, et cetera. But then you have the consumer, and the consumer, you could argue, is smarter now than they were 20 years ago, right? So the BS meter, there's like a big force field around them. They're like, in order to penetrate that, you have to be a little bit more thoughtful and, as you said, authentic. So thank you so much for sharing that.
No problem. And we were in a really good position because I don't expect every influencer to come from a position of strength and be able to hold out but we were very particular. Although we've done a lot of deals, we've been very particular with the deals. And that is something that I think comes across authentic, when you really love the product. And I would tell other influencers out there, and even my wife, like, we'll just do things, we'll promote stuff that we like. And sometimes the companies reach out and they're like, hey, I didn't know you liked our stuff. And deals have come from that, but it comes across
Smart.
a lot better when it's authentic.
Absolutely. And what's your best piece of career advice?
My best piece of career advice is ask for advice. And I think that is something, me being, I've always told my kids to pack their own parachute, which means don't depend on anyone else. But with that, I've kind of changed that focus, because I think that when you bring experts around and you don't try to reinvent the wheel, that to me has been where I've found the most success. Instead of learning how to be a graphic designer and spend hours of my time, which I did when I started my clothing brand, I just hired a graphic designer, and it was hard for me to say, and those are asking for people to help that you can hire, but then asking people just to help that you have in your inner circle or in your parents' inner circle. And I try to do that a lot. I do answer a lot of, sometimes it's hard to get me via Twitter or via Instagram DMs, because there's all these screening things, but I do, if I can get back to someone and help. We've given kids interns, we've done a lot of stuff, and I love that. At my age and my place in my career, like, it's not about how much money you can pile up or the scoreboard. It's really helping others. So I would tell young people and influencers to ask for help from others.
And by the way, you never know what's possible. And I say this as somebody, I'm like you, I'm a hustler. Like, I'll reach out to 1,000 people, and all you need is a few people. And then that could take everything, a few people to reply and be interested in, receiving or giving help for you to take everything you're doing to the next level. It really only takes maybe one person.
It's true. And you can't do it. I mean, my texts, my messages get crazy, but I do try to reply to as much people as possible. And I've put influencers in touch with UTA. We've gotten certain influencers that we've kind of brought into our circle, managers and agents and brand deals. So, I think we're stronger in numbers. And I think if you lean on someone else, it's been the way we've done it all. People look at us as the leaders. There's a lot of people around us that we've been able to depend on to get where we are.
Absolutely. Well, that's great advice. And thank you so much for being on the show.
Oh, thanks so much, Dan. I appreciate you having me, man.